Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good morning to all my friends that are here. I'm hoping that some of you are hearing my voice through the internet, even though it appears that, unfortunately, today you will not have to look at me. You will have to just hear my voice. I do encourage you, if you're listening by internet, please bear with it and give it a chance. We have a lot to talk about, a lot of beautiful things to discuss today. And if you can get a little used to the fact that only a voice is coming at you and not a video, hopefully we can all press through this together. It is the week of Parsha Va'era, the 14th Parsha of the creation week cycle, creation year cycle. And so here we are in the book of Exodus. I like to think of what we do as in the Torah realm, in the Hebrew world, as binge watching. COVID and the whole pandemic stuff that's been going on has kind of made binge watching a cultural phenomenon. But the Hebrews have been doing this for thousands of years. We binge watch the Torah. We binge watch the Parshas. There are 5 seasons of this great series. There's the Genesis season, the Exodus season, the Leviticus season, the Numbers season, the Deuteronomy season. There are 5 seasons and 54 episodes. And every year we binge watch. As the year goes through, we watch another episode every week. And we keep watching the same series year after year after year. So welcome to binge watching phenomenon, the 14th episode. We're in the 2nd season of this series. Va'era. I call this the Parsha of Yad Chazak, the strong hand. The Parsha of the strong hand. We begin to see the Holy One in a light, our Creator, our Redeemer, whatever name you wish to put on Him, whatever characteristics you wish to attribute to Him. We begin to see Him at a deeper dimension and a deeper level, in ways that we stand in awe, saying, is that you? You do that? You can do that? You are doing that? You care about us that much? And we begin to see the deeper levels of dimension. Not dementia, hopefully. The dimension. Dimension that He projects to us. I call it the week when the Eternal One shatters the finity barrier. When He steps out of the shadows. And when He pushes the relationship envelope. We talk a lot about relationship in both the Hebrew tradition and the Christian tradition. It's about a relationship, not a religion. We say these cliches. We say these fancy things. And then we don't describe, we don't define, we have no way to define what that means. We just basically think religion bad, relationship good, but what does a relationship look like? What does it consist of? How does it develop? What is its essence, and what is its purpose, and what is its meaning? What is the level, or the levels at which we enter into relationship? And that's where He begins to take us. In Parsha Va'era, it means, and I appeared. And if you get that, you understand this issue of appearing becomes very critical to the relationship. His appearing. Shaul will talk to his beloved Timothy about all those who love His appearing. Who love His appearing. Do you love His appearing? And that's what the challenge. Every year at this time, the Holy One comes calling. And He's calling to you today. He is visiting. He's breaking through the finity barrier. He's coming into our world today. And every year at this time, on the 14th week of creation year, we begin to sense He is appearing to us. He is breaking that barrier and coming. So the Holy One is coming to call. He's not going to leave you where you are. You know, as you know, where we ended last week with our discussions. I mean, I guess you could say, without being too graphic, all hell broke loose. We were left saying, I thought you were going to deliver us from all this. I thought it was all going to work out. I thought our leader was going to come forth and he was going to tell that other guy where it come from and what to do with life, where to stick it. And all that happened was that our workload got harder and worse. All that happened is that our outlook got more and more bleak. All that happened was we look around and there seems to be no hope. And it shatters our confidence. It shatters our sense of right and wrong. It breaks everything down. So we're in this mess. And it's into that darkness, into that sadness, into that shock and awe that the Holy One appears. And I say he comes calling. He is coming to you. He's coming to his people across the world, coming calling. And he is offering us a new perspective, a fresh start, and a deeper, more substantive relationship than we've ever had before. He's offering it. It's a question of whether we're going to take it or whether we're comfortable where we are. Are we happy in this situation that we're in? I think that's one reason he allowed the situation to get as bad as it was. So if there's anybody out there who's wanting the deeper relationship, who's wanting to get a fresh start, who's wanting a new perspective that has hope in it, has life in it, has purpose and meaning in it, is not just all darkness all the time. If you want that, and he's given you every reason to want it, this is the week he begins to awaken that in you, when he begins to push that envelope. And he knows before he starts, every year at this time, who's hungry, who's not. Who's thirsty, and who's satisfied. Who's angry, and who just wants to see life burst forth. He wants to come to you, and you'll have to make the decision where you fit in that paradigm, where you fit in that great continuum. Are you hungry for more? Are you hungry for the deeper things? Or do you think pseudo-intellectually you know it all? Do you think you know all the doctrines, all the dogmas? Have you got all the symbols in your house, in your house of worship? Have you got all the sacraments done, checked off in your book? Have you gone to meetings and services, and had you done the disciplines? Are you good with that, or are you hungry? Because if you're still hungry, he's got a lot more to offer. And he wants to offer that to each one of us today. He knows who's hungry, he knows who is thirsty, and he knows who is desperate and who is not. He knows who is ready, in other words, for the upgrade in the relationship. I'm looking at faces here, and I would love to look at your face through the camera, but I know you're not there, or you can't see me at least. But I know there's lives on this side of the camera who have gone through the same scenario that has happened in a lot of America. And people are shocked. We thought there was going to be a deliverance. And somebody stood up for us, and then they got shot down. and then it was broken. And then the world seemed to be collapsing around us, and then there seemed to be no hope. He says, this is the situation I step into. This is the situation in which I appear. This is the situation in which I call those who are hungry to a whole new level of upgrade. Now, it's got challenges, so who's ready and who's not? I want to tell you that we're going to be talking about Exodus chapter 6, verse 2 through Exodus 9, verse 35. In the course of these 3-4 chapters, we're going to have 11 separate visitations, 11 separate appearances. 11 times the creator of the universe is going to break the finity barrier and speak or appear or make his presence known. 11 times in 3 or 4 chapters. Now I tell you, this is a season of his appearing. This is a season of his being revealed as the mighty hand. How are we going to respond to all that? The Holy One is talking to Moshe to begin with about how he has been perceived in the past, how he has been known, how he's been understood. There have been many people who have had relationships with the creator of the universe before Moshe. It started with Adam in the garden, and then we had Cain, and we had Hevel, and we went all the way through Noah and that whole story, and Ham, Shem, and Japhet. And then we saw, after the course of time, we saw Hanok, who most people know as Enoch, and how he walked with the Holy One. This has been a long history of the Holy One interacting with human beings. And then we have Abraham and the Lech Lecha call, and then the visitation. The last time we saw a parsha named Vaera, spelled a little different, with a little different tense, was in Genesis. And it was the fourth parsha of the Torah, 10 weeks ago. 10 weeks ago in our binge watching, we had this parsha known as Vaera as well. And in that parsha, what happened is the Holy One appeared. He appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre. He came, and he had this strange phenomenon of appearing in apparently 3 different aspects of, it was angels, or was it men, or was it the Holy One himself, or was it, he appeared in a way we had never seen him before. And he did things he had never done before, even though he had had relationship with so many people over the course of time. He entered into a particular season, a particular situation, and he began to expand the evidence of who he was and the illustration of what he was up to be. And Abraham was overwhelmed, and yet he was enthralled. And I hope that's where we all are. Ready to be a little bit overwhelmed by this new revelation, this new perspective on who our Creator is and what he does, but enthralled in the chance that we're given the opportunity, the privilege, the honor of participating with him in this great program that he has in mind. So, everything that we think we know about the Creator of the universe, tie it up, put a bow on it, wrap it up in a nice ribbon and some wrapping paper, put it on the shelf, because we're about to get something wholly new. We're about to get something much, much, much broader and greater at a different level and a different dimension. Remember, the thing that keeps us back from walking with the Holy One more is what we already think we know. And so here he's going to blow these things out of the water. He's going to give us a whole new light to look into. He's going to give us a whole new lens through which to perceive everything. He's going to give us a whole new paradigm through which to know him. He is going to reveal himself to be the Yad Chazak deliverer. The deliverer. He is the deliverer with a strong hand. But this deliverer with a strong hand, you think, he's just all-powerful. Oh, but he's more than all-powerful. He's also all-good. He's like this totally trained surgeon times 1,000. A surgeon can cut you and heal you at the same time. A surgeon cuts very delicately and very specifically to do the least amount of collateral damage possible and yet accomplish the result. That's a strong hand. He is going to reveal himself as our deliverer over a course of days and weeks and seasons and what is called plagues in the historical narrative. But what he's going to be doing is using a surgeon's scalpel. He is going to be cutting away certain things that we don't need to be affiliated with, certain cancerous things that are in our lives. And then he is going to be bringing forth the fullness of who we are. So, the new paradigm. He is the Yad Chazak deliverer. He is our nation builder. But I want to talk to you a little bit about relationship. Someday I want to write a book about relationship. But first I need to learn a little bit more about it. Now, here's a strange thing about relationship, and I'm going to talk about the relationship between a human being and the Creator of the universe, and the Holy One himself. And I'm going to talk about how that happens one-on-one, but I want to also talk about how it happens, Creator of the universe, to his covenant people, to his nation, to the corporate body. And these things coincide. These things are parallel. Most of Genesis, the book that we read, the Bereshit book, the first season of the great series that we're binge watching, was about the one-on-one, the Holy One, and one person at a time. You know, from Adam and Noah and Enoch all the way through Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov and to Joseph. And that one-on-one relationship was developing. And it was a 12-week program of developing that relationship. And that's just our summary overview. So every day was a unique day in every season. Now he's going to do this on a grander scale. What he's doing is building Am B'nai Israel, the nation of the people of Israel, a corporate, covenantal community, something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our own devotional life, bigger than our own sense of salvation or deliverance or sanctification or glorification or any of the theological terms people might use. Bigger than all that. A relationship that is not built based upon how we relate to one another, first of all, how we relate to him. And as we relate in a certain way to the Creator, we begin to relate better to one another. More effectively, more efficiently, more productively, more fruitfully in that process. So let's just talk about how a relationship just devolves. What makes a relationship. If we don't understand this, we won't understand what he's doing with all these plagues. We just think he's got in some sort of a fight or a contest with Pharaoh. There's no contest. You do realize this, right? The Creator of the universe does not need to beat up on Pharaoh. Pharaoh has no chance. He's not even in the same league. He's not in the same ballpark. He is a human being that is all full of himself, like a lot of folks we know. Like we are in the mirror sometimes, all full of ourselves. We think we're something fantastic, or something powerful, something wonderful, and we let other people believe we are. There is no battle. There is no war. There is no judgment. He doesn't have to do any of that to Pharaoh. He could take Pharaoh out with a click of his fingers if he wanted to. With the word of his mouth, with the breath of his mouth, Pharaoh would collapse and die. So this is not about some kind of great mortal spiritual warfare combat between God and Pharaoh. This is a romance between God and his people. This is about how he breaks us free of our soul ties with the pharaohs of this world and with the Egyptian worldviews of this world, and how he breaks us free like a surgeon cutting away little pieces of tainted flesh, of damaged flesh. He begins to cut it away piece by piece, part by part, component by component, until we're ready to emerge. So how does a relationship start? Let's talk about the personal relationship beginning. It begins, I will identify 11 phases of this. Just like there's 11 visitations of the Holy One that we'll see in this parsha. There are like 11 phases of relationship. And the first phase is so general, it's just anonymous culture sharing. This is, how do you get to know your mate? First of all, you don't. They're just in the same culture you are. They're somehow in the same sphere of influence you are. Now, when you got the nation, you're just aware there's something bigger than you going on, and that's the first step in relationship. There is something bigger than you going on. I'm always reminded of the story of the little boy who was all arrogant and proud, and parents didn't know what to do with him. And they were so tired of listening to him brag about everything and how he knew everything, and they didn't know anything. So they decided one day they're gonna take him somewhere where he'll see something that he should strike him with awe and wonder. That he realized something's bigger than him because he thinks he's so big. And so they take him to the Grand Canyon out in Arizona and Colorado, that little New Mexico, Arizona, and where? What is it? Where did Wyoming? I forget. No, it's not, Utah. And spreads that little bear. And he takes this huge canyon that the Colorado River has run through, and it's just a stunning view. So they take him to the edge of the canyon, and they stand there waiting. How's he going to respond? And he just said, "Can I be here? Can I just be alone for a moment?" And they say, "All right, we got him. He's now seeing it." And so they leave him alone there by the edge for a few seconds, and he comes walking back up with a smile on his face. They said, "Son, what happened? What did you learn about what did you learn today?" He says, "Today, I spit 3 miles." It's 3 miles to the bottom. He's all about himself. And this is, I think, what most of us in the theological, religious world are like. Today, I spit three miles. because we don't see the bigger picture. We don't see what's happening. We're in a culture. We're sharing a culture with the creator of the universe. He is around us whether we know it or not. And that's the first stage of relationship, to realize that, well, we don't know who he is. We know there's somebody out there. I like to talk about the majesty of the night sky, the wonder of the sunset, the sunrise, even the ways in which the creatures do their hibernation, the geese and the ducks flies and make their migrations. You see all the different, the ways things work. I talked last week about the crow and the jay and the sparrow and how they interact with one another. And you say, there's something divine, a design plan around this process. Well, this is the first step of relationship, is realizing that you're in a culture with a lot of other people, and in this situation, someone bigger. The second phase of relationship is what I call random. I put that in quotes because it's really not random at all. But random sphere intersection. Our spheres intersect. When you met your spouse, something happened that caused you to become in the same place or the same internet zone or the same building or the same school or something at the same place at the same time. You didn't even know the other person yet, but you were in the same place or on the same forum at the same time. This is sphere intersection. The third is to get that first impression. There's actually some contact. I'm hoping some of you had relationships and you're remembering this. You had a first contact when you actually first saw them, or made a face-to-face or a heart-to-heart or conversation. You had an interaction that allowed you to have a first impression of the other person. Now, don't forget, we're also talking about the creator of the universe. When you actually go beyond knowing he exists to the place where you actually have an interaction with him, where he actually enters your world, touches your world. And then we have the introduction by name. I put name in quotations mark too, because I've seen so much, unfortunately, fixation about name. And English, Western mindset of what a name is. Oh, heavens. The Hebrew word that we translate into English as name doesn't mean what you think it does. It does not mean a certain label with a certain pronunciation, a certain way you say vowels, and the way you connect consonants. That's not what a name is. A name is the revelation of a personality and an attribute matrix. Who is this really? Who is this person really? And so you begin to have an introduction by this, a sense of beginning to realize who in this person really is. And then we have shared group experiences. So I've gone through the anonymous culture sharing phase, the random sphere intersection phase, the first impression phase, introduction by name, or Shem in Hebrew, the character attribute matrix. And now we have shared group experiences. We're still not really relating to them, but we're part of a bigger group, and the bigger group is relating to him. And then we have one-on-one interaction. Oh, I love this. One-on-one interaction. I'm looking around the room here, and I would be the same if I could look to the camera and see you, to see whose face just lit up. To see who this means something to. Because if one-on-one interaction with the creator of the universe doesn't mean anything to you yet, I understand. That's why we do this every year. That's why we go through this process. We binge watch this same series and these same episodes of the Torah great series every year, because someday you'll be ready to hear about one-on-one interaction again. And some season of this time of year, you'll be saying, oh, I hunger for that. I long for that. I need that so desperately. I need more than just a general consciousness of who he is. I need more than a theology. I need more than a bunch of symbols and sacraments and systematic meetings. And I need more than a bunch of cliches and sayings. I need one-on-one interaction with him. Well, that's the next phase. And then there's this process I call development of favor, where we begin to like him. And we sense he likes us. We sense even though there's no perfection issue for us, we know we're not perfect. We should know that. We know we don't do anything to earn his favor, but we sense this beaming fatherly love emanating toward us, this affection, this kindness that emanates toward us, and we either have to choose to reciprocate it and process it, or get scared away by it, or deny it, or refuse it, and just go on with our theology. So he's pushing the envelope. Are you ready for one-on-one interaction? Are you ready for me to blow up your little bubble and come and show you who I really am and what I'm really doing? So that development of favor stage. Now, this is a process. It takes a few interactions before we say, you know what, I think he really, I don't know why, he likes me. He sees good in me. He sees potential in me. He sees possibilities in this relationship I never even considered. I don't know why, but I like it. And I hope you're at that stage right now. Oh, I like it. I don't know why he likes me. I don't know why he still puts up with me. I don't know why he allows me to even be in his world or breathe this breath of air. A few minutes ago, before we started talking, I was just worried about how bad the world was and how horrible the actors were, and I was fretting over evildoers. But now I'm thinking about him, and he likes me. And because he likes me, there's no end to what might happen. There's no limits to what we could. He can bring things out of me and out of this situation in the world so powerfully, so mighty, that it won't even matter what the evildoers are doing. It seems so horrible. It seems so threatening. It seems so terrible. But you know what? That's not the story. The story is what he's doing in us. So that issue of development of favor. And then there's these shared experiences. We go through the phase of sharing experiences and co-laboring with the Holy One. We actually do stuff together. And matter of fact, over a period of time, we learn to where everything we do together. And we have conversations with him as we're doing it. We're driving down the road. We're going to work. We're going to the store. And we stop at a stop sign or a stoplight, or we get caught in traffic. And all of a sudden, we used to rant and rave at the person in front of us or beside us or around us. We used to get frustrated and look at our watch. I'm going to be late. And now we say, I get a chance to talk to you. What's going on with you? What's happening? What do you see in us? What do you see going on around here? Who are these people in these cars? What are you doing in their lives? What are your feelings toward them? What do you want to do in their lives? And we begin to have this constant flow of interaction with him. This is the season of shared experiences and co-laboring. Then there's another phase that I can only call courtship. I'm sorry. We talk about the courts of the Holy One. Courtship has two meanings to me. Courtship is the relationship whenever it gets real serious, and you are the intentions of the bridegroom one are being announced. I intend to process through a relationship and see if we're marriageable. See if we're compatible on a deep, intimate level, and that we can really co-labor in this eternally forever and become one. That's the courtship aspect of this thing. There's another aspect of it for the covenant, from the standpoint of the people. Are we ready to be regular, active members of his courts? Are we ready to make our primary focus of life not what's happening in the news, not what's happening in the country, not what's happening in the political or economic realm, not what's happening in the educational, informational, entertainment world, not what's going on, what you read about in any of those magazines, but what if we made our focus what's going on in the courts of the King? What's going on at the throne room and the chambers? What are the 24 elders saying? What are the 4 living creatures saying? What are they doing? And what is the grand war room, the grand strategy rooms of heaven? What's on the blackboards, the whiteboards? What's on the overlays? What is the plan? What is the strategy? To be courtiers means that we go out of one realm into another, and we communicate in that higher realm. And we begin to see life through the perspective and the lens of that higher realm. And then we can bring that higher perspective down into this world, down into the day by day, the mundane, the ordinary, the dark, the depressing. Well, that's the courtship stage. And then the next phase, we elevate even further to the betrothal stage. This is where we're set apart, where, hey, he's the guy, she's the girl. This is the one, the Holy One. There is no other God. I will have no other God. I am in this. I'm not turning back. No matter what they throw at me on this earth, no matter what they offer me on this earth, no matter what it looks like I might be able to do, I'm his, and he is mine. I am my beloved's, and he is mine, and we are now exclusive one unto another. This is level of betrothal. erusin in Hebrew. And then there's finally that 11th stage, 11th phase of relationship in which we actually enter into what is called marriage in English or nisuin in Hebrew. And what it is we have committed to actually not just be just his. We become one with him. We're becoming basar echad, the one flesh, where we'll think like he thinks, where we'll begin to speak like he speaks, where we together will be much better than we alone, where we begin to actually reveal who he is on the earth because we are his kingdom ambassadors, but more so, we are his beloved, and he is ours in this wonderful way. So, this is what I'm talking about, pushing the envelope of relationship. I'm here. You're hearing this today, not because you need another lesson on theology, not because you need to rehearse the scene or the story of what happened in Parsha Va'era. You're here because the creator of the universe is knocking at your door, knocking at your heart, knocking on your mind, knocking on your spirit, and saying, I'm still here. Do you want to go deeper with me? Do you want to step into this realm of depth? Do you want to step into this realm of purpose and meaning? Do you want to go further? Do you want to know me in ways you've never known me? And do you want to become one with me? So I ask these questions about where we are. This is, and I appeared, the appearing season. So where are your eyes? If he's appearing, where are your eyes? First question, are your eyes on the Nile? N-I-L-E, not denial. Are your eyes on the Nile, or are they on the Jordan? Are they on the swamps? Are they on the swamp? I'm going to ask it again. Are they on the swamp? Or are they on the river of life? Where are your eyes? Where your eyes are will determine how much relationship you can have. As long as your eyes are on the swamp, you'll never see the river of life. You'll never be able to flow in it, swim in it, dance in it, sing around it. You'll never be able to sing the song of the sea because you're singing the song of the swamp. Are you fixated on what's happening in the Nile or the Potomac or whatever river any other capital is on? Is that where you're fixated on? Is this where your vision is located? Or are you fixated on the Jordan River and the entrance to the Promised Land? And not just the Promised Land, but the strategic beachhead, the landing strip on which the kingdom of heaven is landing and then spreading out throughout the rest of the world. Are you there, or are you fixated on the Nile and the Potomac and all the other rivers on which people build capital structures? Where are your eyes? Because where your eyes are will determine what you see when he appears, or what you don't see when he appears. So are your eyes on the sea of reeds? And the armies right behind you coming at you with full bore and hatred and shouting and screaming and vile vitriol? And you see the sea and how there's no chance, no way out? Or are you ready to see a passageway made through that sea? To see the Holy One go before you, open up passageways, open up pathways that you could never have imagined, and walk through that sea with him, unto him, for him, leaving the other things behind. Are you ready for that? The question, cards on the table, which will it be for you? Is your heart in death sting mode? Oh, death. Death has a sting. And once you get stung by it, you're on a death spiral. You're going down, depression, sadness, anger, offense, outrage over what all's happened. This is the death sting spiral. Are you in a death sting spiral? Or are you in deliverance mode? Are you lifting your eyes, lifting your heart, lifting your spirit to say, but there is my King, and he is willing to deliver us, going to deliver us? I think it's only when one senses that his only options are two that he begins to be awake to the calling of deliverance. You only have two options or you will never even see his path of deliverance. Your options must be either, I'm going to die here. This is going to kill me. This is going to be the death of my country. This is going to be the death of my family. This is going to destroy us. Or he's going to deliver us. Or we're going to team up with him, and he's going to bring us forth out of this. Better than we've ever been. Stronger than we've ever been. With more purpose and more impact than we've ever had. It's one of the two. Either it's going to kill us, either it's going to destroy us and our families and everything we've ever dreamed and thought was important, or he's going to deliver us. I don't mean he's going to lift us up and take us, Calgon, take me away. I mean he's going to bring us out of here and bring us up into his courts and reassign us and redeploy us with a whole new attitude and a whole new perspective and a whole new level of fruitfulness and impact. That's what I think is going on here. So are we at that stage yet? Do we realize it's either I'm going to die here, it's going to kill me and destroy me and my family, or he's going to rise up as a mighty deliverer with a Yad Chazak, the strong right hand, and deliver us. So are we desperate yet? Some people do not understand me, and I get that. I wouldn't have understood myself a few years ago. They do not understand why I am extremely happy right now. Excited, more excited than I've ever been. They say, haven't you seen the news? Don't you know what's happening? Don't you know how bad, how they hate us, how the people who hate us are in charge? I said, yeah, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it great? Think of the possibilities. If we can get over ourselves long enough, if we can realize it was never about us in the first place. You know, in the great seasons of the Hebrew year, and I know really intelligent people in the movements of Torah observant movements, a lot of them hate Hanukkah. They just think it's pagan and they don't understand anything about it, so they hate it. And they think it's just a bunch of men doing a bunch of pagan stuff. But in the Hebrew year, it tells you what happens when you try to save yourself. When you develop an army and you come up with a whole plan of the Maccabees, and by the strength of our own hand, we overcame. Yes, the Holy One helped us in some vague, ambiguous way. Yes, he was always there. And yes, it's really him that was doing it. But it was our sword swinging. And it was our determination. It was our vitriol that won that battle and got that temple back. And we rededicated it with our own bare hands. That was what Hanukkah teaches us. And then you read the rest of the story in Maccabees. Never think you know Hanukkah until you read the story of the Maccabees. the books of the Maccabees. Because they tell you how it all ends when you do that. You trade the Greeks for the Romans. You trade one persecution for a deeper, more powerful persecution. The Maccabees didn't win. They won a battle. And they lost the war. That's the reason it's not celebrated so much in the nations. Because we lost. We wound up with the Romans in charge of us. Because we sold out. We tried to do it on our own. We tried to use reason and logic and power and strength and armies and weapons of this world. And so after the Hanukkah season, after we play all this out, we celebrate the fact we had a little victory. And then we watch as that victory begins to disappear and dissipate. We thought we had hope. We had a man, and he led us. He gave us hope. And then he collapsed and was destroyed. And then we sought another man, and we called in other people at other alliances, and they came and they took over, and they destroyed us. Or they brought our families to a place of destruction. Now, that's what happens in the whole season of Hanukkah. It's not just the 8 days of rededication. Then the season kicks in. We realize this wasn't all we thought it was going to be. This is not the answer. Trying to find our own deliverance is not the answer. Trying to use logic and reason and power and might, using strategy, is not going to get us the deliverance we need. The only hope we have for deliverance is to find that relationship with Him of favor and delight that wakens us and takes us out of the mindset of this world, that we use weapons of this world, and we begin to use the things that He gave us and call us in the place He called us. So, are we ready to do this yet? Are we ready to forsake the weaponries of this world? Every year He comes calling. At this time of year, He comes calling, and He begins to ask us, are you ready yet? Are you hungry? Do you realize the futility of your own efforts yet? You realize that without me actively engaged and involved and leading you through this process, you will always you'll lose a Greek for a Roman. And are you happy with that? Are you good with the Romans? Or you just want a nicer Roman? You hope you get a good Roman this year. Are you ready to move deeper into the relationship? But here's the question. If you're going to go deeper in the relationship, there is a river out there. And it's a raging river. And it's a river with raging rapids. And in other words, for us to take this road of deliverance, for us to take this pathway, for us to make this journey of deliverance, you're going to have to navigate those raging rapids of that river. But that is the way to deliverance. Are we ready to deal with the churning rapids of the raging river of divine deliverance? The churning rapids, the raging river of divine deliverance. The journey is not for the faint of heart. The journey is for the desperate who have no other choice, who sense they have no power, they have no rights they can depend upon, they have nothing to base their own deliverance upon, and therefore, if He doesn't deliver us, we will not be delivered. The prologue. Last week, as it ended, the previous episode of this story ended at chapter 6, verse 1 of Exodus, said, the Lord appeared to Moshe, the Holy One appeared to Moshe, and He says, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a Yad Chazak, a strong hand, He will let them go. With a strong hand, a Yad Chazak, He will drive them out of His land. So the first thing you have to realize is before you can see and understand and appreciate the strong hand of the Holy One, which is the surgeon's hand, which limits the collateral damage and accomplishes the best result, you will see the Yad Hazak of man. You will see Pharaoh's Yad Hazak. You see the strong hand of the government. You will see the strong hand of the parties. You will see the strong hand of the political economic structures. You will see that strong hand before you see the Holy One's strong hand, because you must understand you can't survive in this strong hand without His before Him. So we start this week, and if you would stand with me, we're going to read the first few verses of our parsha. As you know, I love and I honor the Torah. I love the Holy One who wrote the Torah, and the fact that He took the time to actually have this wisdom recorded for us, put in form where we can go back and connect with it every year. Any day we want, we can find this beautiful. And so I honor that, and I encourage us all to stand as we read these passages. I'll begin with chapter 6, verse 2. Before I do that, I'll ask you if you want to join me, go ahead. I'm going to do my usual thing, my usual thanking the Holy One and refocusing through Psalm 119. Beginning with verse 18. Open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from us. Our souls cry out for your judgments at all times. How can a young man keep his way pure? By living according to your Torah. Amen. Beginning with verse 2. And the Holy One spoke to Moshe and said, I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. I appeared, Va'erah, to Avram, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov as God Almighty. But by my Shem, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, I was not known to them. I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, in which they were sojourners. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians hold in bondage. And I have remembered my covenant. Therefore, say to the children of Israel, I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will rescue you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. And then you will know that I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, who brings you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And then I will bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And I will give it to you as a heritage. I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And so Moshe spoke this to the children of Israel, but they did not shema, they did not hear, they did not respond because of anguish of spirit and cruel bondage. And the Holy One spoke to Moshe, saying, Go in and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moshe spoke before the Holy One, saying, B'nai Israel, the children of Israel have not shema'd me. How then shall Pharaoh shema me? For I am of uncircumcised lips. And the Holy One spoke to Moshe and Aaron and gave them a command for the children of Israel and for Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the children out of the land of Egypt. Amen. You may be seated. I remember that, there's the whole thing I did last week with seeing the imagery of the sparrows. And all this week playing in my heart has been that old song that most of you probably know. His eye is on the sparrow. And there's that soaring chorus that comes out of that song. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow. And I know he watches me. That's why I'm happy at this particular season. His eye is on the sparrow, folks. His eye is on the sparrow. And yes, the sparrow is still among the jays and the crows. But the sparrow is going to come forth out of this process, and the jays and the crows are going to go away. They're going to fade into insignificance. And their names will not be remembered, and their sound and the noise, all the noise they made, will not be remembered in the days to come. Well, the Holy One has spoken. He has made certain promises. He's going to upgrade us in what we know of him. And, I tend to look at these things he said, I will. The I wills of Exodus 6. Amazing things. Don't read over them too quickly. Don't get lost in one at a time here. The first promise, there's 8 altogether. 8 promises altogether. 4 of them, the first 4, become the center point of every Passover Haggadah. first four promises are what we build the entire Haggadah around, and the whole Passover ceremony around the first four promises. But there are four more promises. We've got a former days and a latter days. And the four former days promises are what we celebrate, remember at Passover. But the four latter promises are what we look forward to at Passover. And what we keep our eyes focused on the future as well as the past and the present. So what's the first promise? The first promise is Vehotzeti. Vehotzeti. And I will bring you out. Yatsah. I will make you sprout. Yatsah is the word that the verb in Hebrew that is used to describe what the seed sprouted. And he brought forth grasses, and they had seed. And he brought forth. This is bringing forth. He'll bring you forth. He'll cause something that looks like it's death, not live, and he will cause it to sprout. I will bring. This is. Are you sense that this is the season of winter in the northern hemisphere. And everything. Everywhere look, all the things, all the sap of the trees and all the sap of the plants. They didn't die. They went down to the root. The sap is in the root, and it looks like death. But you know what's about to happen? Stick around. Watch what happens in your yard or in your neighborhood over the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. All the things that look like they were dead, look like they had died and just deteriorated and gone nothing, the sap will begin to rise in them, and they will begin to have life flowing in them again. And they will turn green and verdant. They will become alive, and there will be fruit coming forth, beginning to come forth from them. This is what's happening. So the first promise of this new paradigm of who God is, who our King is, if we're desperate enough to hear it, he says, I know you feel like you are buried in the earth, dying, dead. I will bring you forth. I tell everybody, I said, this beginning during the 10 days of awe this past year, this past fall, I always ask the Holy One to give me some sort of an idea for me and for this fellowship and for our family and for the world, for that matter. What is the message for the coming year, for 5781? And he takes me through a series of remembrances, and he lights me on chapter 37 of Ezekiel. And he took me to a valley of dry bones. And there were very many bones, and they were very dry. And he said to me, he asked me, he said, Son of man, can these bones live? You know who I'm talking about, bones. Yeah, there's a prophetic significance to this passage. And part of it's starting with you today, right in this room. Can these bones live? And then in a vision of Ezekiel looks up and he says, you know, and of course I've told you before, I think the other end of that part, there was an ellipse, and it was like, you know, O Holy One, that they can. I don't know they can, but you know they can. It's not written in the text. I just sense it's written in his heart. And he says, now, prophesy to these bones. Call the wind to breathe upon these bones. They'll come together, bone up unto bone. And then they will rise up. There will be flesh will come upon them, and all the things will happen. This is that issue. This is that time. Do you believe? Do you understand? Are you hungry to have it happen in you, where what you thought was dying and dead because of all the stuff that was going on around you, all the fixation you had on the Potomac or the Nile or the leader who fell and couldn't get up again, needed a lifeline? But we've been fixated on that, but he says, you understand this. This is my message to you. I will bring you forth. Vets hotseti. I will bring you forth. Not your own knowledge base, not your own ability to form and hide and do a resistance movement and create another underground army. Not that's going to cause you to become. I will cause you to come forth. I will bring you forth. That's the first promise. Do you sense he's bringing something forth in you? Are you awake? Are you alive? Do you sing because you're happy? Do you sing because you're free? Now, your flesh isn't free. Oh, the news won't let you be free. The political structure won't let you be free. But they can't stop you from being free. I sing because I'm happy. Now, Vehosetzi is the first promise. The second promise is Vihitzalti. And there's an and. In addition to bringing you forth, I will set you free. Netzal is the Hebrew verb, and it means to grab and take apart, pull apart, pull away from things that are clutching it. You just imagine dark, angry people reaching and grabbing you, and holding on to you, and latching around your legs and holding you where you can't run, latching around your arms where you can't move, putting their hand over your face or over your mouth where you can't talk, you can't even scream, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes a hand and begins to rip away those strong arms that are pulling on you, and free your legs, and then free your arms, and then free your head, and then free your eyes, then free your mouth. I will set you free. Vehitzalti. That's only the second of 8 promises. I will set you free. I'll set you free for a reason, for a purpose, for a meaning. Vega'alti, the third promise. Vega'alti. I will redeem you as a kinsman redeemer redeems his kin. As the stronger member of a family comes for the weaker and sets him back up to where he can be fruitful again. What does Ga'al mean? Ga'al means not just I'm going to set you free. It means way more than that. I'm going to establish you again. I'm going to put you back where you belong, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Redemption is not complete. Ga'al is not complete until the one who is redeemed is back in the land, back on his ancestral inheritance, back bringing forth the fruitfulness of that particular sphere of influence that he's been given. That's when redemption becomes full. So, vehosete, vehitzalte, vega'alti, and vekachakti. Vekachakti. I know that's a strange way to say it. Hebrew sounds kind of a lot of gutturals in there. Vekachakti. It's a promise. I will take you. I will take you as my people, he says. Wow. When you realize his plans for you, the level at which he desires to take you and mold you into something bigger than yourself, bigger than your will, bigger than your attitude, bigger than your belief system, he wants to take you and mold you into a nation. And not just any nation, not just another nation like America or South Africa or Kenya or India or the Philippines or New Zealand or Australia or Canada or Mexico. I'm leaving out a bunch that watch Israel, that watch and listen to the rabbi's son stuff that we're doing, that are listening right now. More than any of these nations, he wants to make it his nation, his people. Third person possessive, interactive with his people. This is his promise. He says, I'm going to make you more than just a believer. I'm going to make you more than just a disciple. I'm going to make you more than just a follower. I'm going to make you more than just some sort of religious denomination or fellowship member. I'm going to make you part of my people worldwide. My eternal people that continues to grow generation by generation by generation. I'm going to connect you with the great plan of redemption for mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline and household by household, and for the restoration of all of creation to its original intended state of beauty and of fruitfulness and shalom and harmonious interaction. You're a part of this. You're part of my representative people. That's why you know how to operate in my courts, because you're my people. All are welcome in my courts. Well, so we have Vehotzeti, Vehitzalti, Vega'alti, Velakakti, and next we have Vahaiti. I will be. I will be. Just that is enough, right? Just that he is. He always will be. He always is whatever he needs to be at the given moment. I will be, but he says, I will be your God. Second person possessive. He's ours. He's ours. He promises to be ours, available to us, accessible to us, part of us, unified with us, on our side, with us, yet following him, doing his will. Our God. Not just a belief system, not just a theology, not just a doctrinal statement or a dogma, not just a sacrament, a symbol, or a system of meetings. Now, I'm talking about he's going to be our God. That's the fifth promise. The sixth promise is vidatem. Vidatem. And you will know me. Whew. You will know me the way a husband knows a wife, the way the wife knows a husband. You will know me as a friend knows a friend. You will know me intimately. You will know my thoughts. You will know my ways. You will know my words. You will know my meanings, my intentions, my purposes. You will know my power, but you will also know my gentleness. You will know my goodness. You will know me. You won't just think about me and believe in me. You will know me. That's pushing the envelope of relationship. This idea of knowing him, knowing how he will think about a thing, knowing how he will respond to a situation, knowing what he's doing in a bigger picture that is bigger than what the news is telling us, or the political parties are telling us, or the economic systems are telling us. He's doing something much bigger than those things. And knowing him means that we understand that he's doing that. And I sing because I'm happy. Vidatem. We will know him. The seventh, the Shabbat aspect of the promise. The seventh, veheveti, from the Hebrew word bo, to transition, to make a transition in one place to another, one phase to another, one mindset to another, from death spiral to life cycle. Veheveti. He promises, I will bring you, I will cause you to transition from where you are now to where I call you to be. Promise to bring us into the land. And finally, the messianic aspect of things. The messianic, the eighth is always the picture of the messianic aspect of things. Messiah, his number. The eighth promise, venatati. Venatati, a beautiful word. In English, it just translates, because we don't have a good word for it. It translates as give. I will give the land to you. Venatati, though, doesn't mean I will give it to you like a gift, like a present wrapped up in ribbons. It means that I will entrust it to you, and we together will work it and make it productive. It is a stewardship. It is a partnership. It is a covenant working together relationship that is tied to a specific sphere or series of spheres of influence. And potential harvest. To bring forth potential harvest in every one of those spheres of influence. He said, I am connecting you and me with this land, with this spheres of influence, with this area. That's what he'll do, Venatati. That's what Messiah does, right? Messiah doesn't just save us from our sins. He puts us in a position where we can be his servants to the rest of the world and bring forth a harvest. He is what? The Lord of the harvest. If you don't understand him as being the Lord of the harvest, you'll get caught up in theology. He's not here to make you think better. He's here to make you become the person you were created to be and part of the community you're designed to be part of. So this promise to entrust to us, to steward, give us in stewardship, and co-labor with us to make fruitful everything that we put our hand to. These are the 8 courtier promises. Okay. Now, as we've hopefully been a little bit blown away, I hope you're hungrier than you were when you walked in. I hope you're thirstier than you were. I hope your eyes are in a different location than they were when you walked in. I hope you're not focused on the Potomac as much as you're focused upon the River of Life. Now, that being said, we've got some distance to cover. The churning rapids of the raging river of deliverance One day soon, we will be standing on the east side of the Sea of Reeds, having walked through the walls of water, having watched as the waters collapsed upon those who sought our lives. One day soon, we will sing because we're happy. And the sounds will come forth not off of some overhead projector, not out of somebody's chord structure. They'll come out of heaven through our mouths upon the earth. Ashira Ladonai Ki Geoga. And I will sing unto the Holy One, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea. And it goes on and goes on. And we'll sing in a little while, but first we got to go through the raging river and the churning rapids and a lot of stuff in between. And so we're going to see I'm going to call it 8. 8 signs, 8 systems of rapids. You know, if you go on a river, you do a rafting trip on a river, you know, you turn the corner, you think you got through the last set of rapids, you're home free, and you turn around the corner, the creek turns, the river turns. Oh my gosh, that set of rapids is harder than the last one. And they keep getting, because you're going down, you're going further down in elevation. And as you're doing this process, every turn you see another set of rapids, and you're going to have to navigate that next set of rapids. Well, there's 8 sets of rapids in this churning part of the river that we're going through to get to the Sea of Reeds and the Song of the Sea. And the first one is they don't really correspond completely to what the theologians call the plagues. They are one different. It's kind of like what most theologians call the 10 Commandments starts with, you will have no other God before me. But not to the Hebrew. To the Hebrew, it's not about the 10 Commandments. And the Hebrew says, the first words are, I am the Holy One who brought you out of Egypt. And nothing else matters unless I'm that. None of the other stuff that you really matters if you don't know that I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. And we walk through the Sea of Reeds together. We have this relationship together. That's the only time the rest of it's going to matter. So it is with these plagues. We're going to see 7 plagues, but we're going to see 8 signs, 8 rapids. We're going to walk through, navigate through with the Holy One himself. So what's the first one? The first one, after he finally gets Moshe back up, after he finally gets him to get out off of his pity party about what happened in the Potomac or the Nile, about how bad it turned out when he tried to do the right thing. When he finally gets up, he's going to say, now go to Pharaoh, and I want you and Aaron to go, and I want you to take your rod, your shepherd's rod, just a simple shepherd's rod. It isn't a weapon. It's not an AR. I want you just to take your silly little shepherd's rod that doesn't threaten anybody. And I want you to take that little shepherd's rod, and I want you to walk inside Pharaoh's courts. I want you to be a courtier of the earthly courts, and I want you to go into Pharaoh's courtyard, and I want you to show him the sign. So tell him, give him a chance. Tell him to let the people go. Shalach el-amin, actually send them out. Tell him that. He's not going to do it. So when he doesn't do it, he wants to see a sign. He wants to see some sort of evidence that you got something. You got something. What do you got, man? What have we got? Do you have anything? Or are we just a lot of talk? Are we just a lot of anger? We just got a lot of outrage. What have we got? So he says, Moshe, when he asks you what you got, I want you to throw down your rod. Just toss it down on the ground. And so he does. And he tosses down the rod. This is the first rapid. Because if this doesn't go well, it could get really ugly. And so what happens is, he throws down the rod, and when he throws down the rod, it becomes, now I know your English Bibles and your movies and all that kind of stuff say it became a serpent. It did become a serpent when he was showing it to the people of Israel, but not here. That's Nakash. It became a Nakash. It became a serpent, but not here. This is not to the people of Israel. This is to Pharaoh. And so he spoke in Pharaoh's language. And so it doesn't say in the Hebrew that they became a serpent. It became a crocodile. Tanin. There's a totally different word, totally different mindset. It did not become a serpent in front of Pharaoh. It became a crocodile. And so he throws down his rod. It becomes a crocodile. Now that could get you in trouble, bringing a crocodile into a king's courts. But this king is just intrigued. He likes it, so he calls his magicians. Can you do that? Think about how this works out. Think about the silliness of the world. It isn't a matter of, oh my goodness, it is a matter of, can we do this better than you did this? And so he brings all the magicians in, and I don't know how many there were. The movie shows 2, but there's a lot more. He brings all the magicians in, his occult leaders, and he brings them in, and can you do this? And and here they are, proud and arrogant, and all this process, and they make a big show and a lot of noise and puff of smoke, whatever they're doing, and they throw down their rods, and guess what you got? More crocodiles. Isn't the world funny? Their answer is to produce more crocodiles. More snapping, biting, more fear, more attack. And so it's really amazing how that's the response of the world around you. When you show them something, they say, we can do that. We can do better than that. And they begin to throw this nonsense at you. So here's the courtroom, this nice little pleasant, peaceful palace. Pleasant, peaceful palace. I got alliteration going. Is this pleasant, peaceful palace now filled with crocodiles? Isn't this fun? Told you it was rapids. Told you we were in the rapids now. And all these crocodiles are snapping and biting and moving and whatever. And it's like, Pharaoh, Moses said, Pharaoh, are you crazy? Is this what you wanted? More crocodiles? And so the crocodile that came out of Moshe's rod begins to take care of the situation. One by one. Eats everyone. I don't know if there are 30, 50. I don't know how many crocodiles were in the room. But however many there were, Moshe's rod crocodile goes and he eats every single one of them, swallows every last bite, and sitting there fat, dumb, and happy in the courtyard in the sun. And I can imagine just yawning. I've seen enough wildlife shows to know what happens when a crocodile's full. He just sort of veges out like most of us do. So here's the crocodile vegging out, and it's like, okay, Pharaoh, did you not catch the nuances of this? Not only did he show you a crocodile, he took your best shot, and he swallowed it whole. But Pharaoh is not smart enough to catch that. Pharaoh will never catch that. Pharaoh is going to go down the road to his own destruction. That's why we don't worry about who Pharaoh was. We don't even know his name. It's never written anywhere. No one cares who that Pharaoh was. No one cares who the other side of the Potomac is. In a few years, it won't matter. Nobody will even remember his name. So don't worry about all that stuff. Understand that the crocodiles time, the season of crocodiles is upon us. And it's not a matter of, they didn't kill the Pharaoh. They didn't beat him. They didn't kick him out of his office. They didn't say he couldn't be the Pharaoh anymore. They just proved that he really can't accomplish anything because the Holy One's always stronger than he is. Well, so that's the first sign. The next thing is the river turns to blood. Blood in the water. There will be blood in the water. And so we have this season of blood in the water. That's the second of the signs, the second of the rapids. What happens when there's blood in the water? Well, you remember 7 days. For 7 days, the blood was in the water. And it was not just in the river Nile. It was also in all the pots of wood and the vessels of metal. Every little stream, every canal. All surface water turned to blood. It didn't just look like blood. It wasn't algae. It wasn't red algae. It wasn't just red color. I'm saying it turned to blood. DNA. It developed DNA of blood. Okay, I don't get too excited about seeing red algae in the water somewhere. I know there's a lot of that goes on, and time everybody says, this is it. No, this ain't it. It ain't it until it's blood. Until it's really blood. And this was really blood. And that really blood process, I said, so what happens in the Nile and in all these areas? the animals the fish begin to die, and they begin to stink, and all the sea creatures have nothing to eat. The aquatic creatures have nothing to eat. They get hungry. Crocodiles get hungry. The swamp creatures get hungry. Those who live in the swamp, those who are of the swamp, they get hungry. So they begin to come into your house, and they begin to come, and so that's what happens. Next thing is after the swamp, after the blood and the water, 7 days, the whole one, he could have destroyed Egypt forever right there with just the water and the Nile. Had he not cleaned it up, they would have died. No one could have lived. But he cleaned it up. 7 days is all, and he washed. But now the dead fish, all the mess is there. So here come in English we read the frogs. The plague of the frogs. And they go to everybody's house, but it's in Hebrew it's Sephardim, which is just a general term meaning creatures from the swamp. Crocodiles, lizards, monitor lizards, pythons, every creature of the swamp. Why would they come? Because there's nothing for them to eat back at the Nile in the swamp. They got to come. So they come into the cities. They come into the houses. The Holy One calls it forth, makes it happen on cue. They come forth into the houses, just as he said, and they begin to stink, and they begin to you open up the cabinet door, get your bowl of Cheerios. Crocodile bites at you. You know, it's just whatever it may be. Frogs, lizards, snakes, everywhere in this process. The rapids, here we are in the rapids again, third set of rapids. And in the process, we have this Pharaoh is begging for help. He realizes he's got a major issue here, and so he promises things he will not deliver, does not intend to deliver. He puts himself, I hear people all the time saying, it was just not right of God to harden Pharaoh's heart. What they forget is that he hardened his own heart so bad he crossed the line 100 times of no return. And then the Holy One hardened his heart so it would finish, so it would be over. For mercy's sake, because he's a strong hand, but he's not an unmerciful hand. And so we have the plague of the swamp creatures, and then we have the prayer. Moshe comes to Pharaoh and says, "I'll give you the honor of telling me when you want these swamp creatures to leave your land." And just to prove he's still in control, rather than say, "Now, please, right now. Oh, I can't stand another second. I don't want my people to have to deal with another second of this horrible thing happening in our life." He strokes his beard, shakes his shoulders, strikes a pose and says, Tomorrow, you go pray for the Holy One to remove the swamp creatures from our land. Tomorrow. If I'm a citizen of Egypt, I don't sing because I'm happy. He's building the problem. He's building his own demise here by saying, tomorrow, the old famous sermon, one more night with the frogs. It's okay, I'll put my people through one more night with the frogs. Anyway, so that happens. And the next thing happens is the ground, the actual earth, the grains of sand of the earth begin to turn into lice. Now, that would be a bad feeling. You're walking down the sand. You're on the beach, or you're in the field, or you're just walking to your house down the pathway leads to your house, and all of a sudden, the ground on which you're standing turns into lice, and it starts crawling up your legs, and starting to bite you and make sores on you and hurt you and suck your blood. The parasites are coming, and so this is pretty. It'll get your attention. And so this next set of rapids is that then brilliant Pharaoh calls his magicians again. As if we didn't have enough lice in the land. He calls them and says, "Can you do this? Can you make this happen?" And they look at him like, I'm just picturing this in my head. Are you absolutely nuts? How crazy are you? You want me to make more lice? So whether they really can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or whatever, they say, we can't do this. This one we can't make the ground turn into lice. If I was a magician, I would have said this a long time ago. We got back to the blood, but the frogs, but whatever. But they finally say, no, we can't do this. This is nothing but the finger of God. He is appearing. The Elohim, this one that the Hebrews, the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Hebrews keep talking about. He is appearing, and this is his handiwork. His finger is at work. It's not his full hand. It's just his finger. We haven't seen his best shot by any stretch of imagination. This is just the little tip of his finger. Now, we're using an anthropomorphic reference here. Whether he's really got fingers or not, I'm not even arguing with you. The issue is this is just the tip. This is just the fringe. This is just a little bit of his power. The minuscule amount of his power, we cannot duplicate it. We cannot replicate it. We're in this process. Do you know what we're facing? This is the finger. There's only one other thing that was referenced as being brought about by the finger of God. And I know what that is. The Torah. The Torah. The words on Mount Sinai. They were given by the voice of the Holy One, but they were written for us with the finger of God, with the fringes of his power. This is just, the Torah is a wonderful, beautiful thing, but it's just the fringes of the power of the relationship. It's the basis of the relationship, but it's the fringes of the little bits about it. So don't get caught up in this. So the fourth one is, and here's the next thing. Then we began this process, and how we'll finish our session online today. And thank you for being patient to watch or listen, even though you can't watch those who are in the world. But we're going to talk about now the next thing he says. He says, I'm going to do, the Holy One begins to do two things. And the two words in Hebrew are pala and pedut. They're both translated the same way in English. I will make a distinction, he says, or a separation. I will make a distinction or a separation between my people and the people of Egypt. A pala and a pedut. I will make a distinction which shows my people are not the same, or aren't subject to the same things, or in a different realm, or have different strengths and possibilities in them, potential in them, than the other people of the Egyptian realm. And then I will show that they are subject to different laws and different rules than the people in this world. The different pala and the pedut. And from this point forward, after the lice, from this entire point forward, what happens is that what happens to Egypt and the Egyptians and Pharaoh begins to not touch the people of the Holy One. The rivers have dried up. The slime pits are polluted. They can't make bricks. They can't build buildings. They go back to Goshen. They've gone back home. They're rediscovering community. They're rediscovering their roots. They're reawakening to who they really are, that they're not part of Egypt, that this is not who they really are, and they're not dependent upon its power structure or who's in charge of Egypt. They begin to realize who they belong to and whose they are, and they begin to hear the old stories and hear the testimonies and respond to the testimonies of the Holy One and begin to awaken to a different identity and a different purpose in life. And then they begin to see God is treating us in a different way than he is those who will not recognize who he is. The ones we were so afraid of, they're the ones who are having to deal with the rapids, and we're running through the channel. We're smooth through the channel here. The rest of them, those rapids are not getting us. It's still going downhill. It's moving fast. We're seeing a lot of stuff happening, but suddenly we've hit this channel, and it's pretty much smooth sailing. Isn't that amazing? Now this is what's going to happen for the next series of signs. So we have the sign of the crocodiles. We have the sign of the river full of blood. We have the sign of the swamp creatures. We have the sign of the lice. We begin to see more things. We see a swarm, the great swarm. In English it's called flies, but the word flies is not in there. That's just, what is a swarm? A swarm, and of course the ancient Hebrews say it's predators. They come, all the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And the predators come out of the wild, and they come because they've lost their natural food because it's come where you are. So now the predators come into your cities, and then you see the plague on the livestock because whenever they can, the predators bring their sicknesses and diseases into the world, the livestock begin to fall. So you get the plague on the livestock. And the livestock, the domesticated animals begin to die. And then you sense the other things start happening. You have the ash is thrown in the air, and the falls on the skin. And you see this toxic waste, toxic ash begins to create blisters and boils and sores, lesions on the skin. And the fourth thing it says is very interesting. It says, and it fell first on the magicians. This disease, this pandemic, fell first on the magicians. I'm going to leave that to you as far as how that relates to the loathsome sore of the book of Exodus or the book of Revelation. How you'll understand who gets it first and how you know it's really real. It's whenever the magicians get it first. But anyway, and it makes them where they can't stand before Moshe. Well, that's another story. The next one is, of course, the hail. The hail from heaven rains with fire mixed with hail. We'll see that twice in the book of Revelation, where the hailstones fall. Now, what am I saying with all these? With all these, the Holy One is trying to appear to you and show you who He is in ways that you didn't think you knew. You knew theology. You could recite the doctrines. You probably watched all sorts of different movies and videotapes and YouTube videos and all. You watched all sorts of teachings about who He is. You think you can pronounce His name because you've got a certain series of vowels and consonants you put together, and you say that's got to be. But you never knew Him like this. He said, no, every year I show you myself. Every year I want you to see who I really am, and I want you to be drawn into my favor, into my affection, into my love, into our covenant relationship. I want you to grow deeper in relationship. Who's hungry? Who's thirsty? Who's ready? Who's willing to chunk everything you think you know and be taken as my own people? Become my own. Serve in the courts of the King. Be set apart from the other nations. Not so you can be better than them, so you can actually go back to them and offer them a redemption that they have no other source of getting. Well, it's time to say goodbye. For those of you who joined in, even though you didn't have a video, I would ask you if you would please to put your name and the location you're viewing or listening from. And so I can pray over your name, over your family, your household. So I can pray over the region in which you live, the nation, the country. I do this every year, every day, every week. I go through it, and I pray for you. So I ask you to do that, and also it's good to know just where you are in the first place. So Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, really, we'll see you. And meanwhile, the rest of us here, we'll take a little break, and we'll see everybody at about